Guys, we're going to finish up talking about the heart by talking about how the chambers contract and basically talk about the conduction system of the heart. So the conducting system of the heart, well, first of all, let's take a look at blood flow through the heart. This is a neat one here. Hang on one sec. Okay, so if you follow that link that's on the slide, it's going to take you to this neat picture of the moving heart. So this is just a picture of the heart as it's beating, and you can see that we have a contraction in those upper chambers, followed by a contraction in the lower chambers. You can see the blood leaving the upper chambers to fill the lower chambers. We can see these cool, oh, here's my pointer. We can see these cool little valves. So, okay, so here are the upper chambers of the heart. Okay, here is the left side of the heart and the right side of the heart. These sweet coronary arteries right here. You can also see, I like this because we have the blood, the atria contracts and the ventricles contract. So it's boom, 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 bump, bump. And I like this because it lets us take a look and see what's going on with the blood volume as it moves through the heart. So the impulse for the heart to contract is going to be arising in the right atria and what's called the cyanoatrial node. All right, so let's just hop on back to our lecture here. So our heart follows what's called it exhibits something called autorhythmicity. So the heart is capable of making its own heartbeat independent of any external nerves. So if we're supporting the living function of the heart, if there's no nervous system input to the cardiovascular system, if there's no nervous system input to the heart, we are still going to have a heartbeat, which is really pretty cool, right? The electrical impulse that initiates the heartbeat comes from a little bunch of specialized muscle cells called the Cyanoatrial Node or the SA node, or also known as the pacemaker. That's located in the back of the right wall of the right atrium. Let's click here. Sorry, guys. Oh, and hello, welcome to week 2, by the way. Here we go. All righty. So the electrical impulse that initiates the heartbeat comes from this cyanoatrial node. Is also known as a pacemaker. And if you've ever known of anyone who has a pacemaker implanted, this is the spot where it's going to be implanted, where the cyanoatrial node is. The SA node generates a heartbeat of up to 100 beats per minute if there's no neural input. And Zach, you eating some crackers earlier. Sorry, guys. The myocardium is, so the SA node is going to pace the heart. It's going to tell the heart how fast to beat. The myocardium, or the wall of the muscular part of the heart, excuse me, as we know, is made of cardiac muscle fibers. Uh-oh. Hold on. That's the, sorry guys, we've got some sound effects here from that video that's still playing. Hang on one second. It's kind of peaceful, isn't it? Okay, I'll be right back. Those cardiac muscle fibers contract as a single unit. We have these things called intercalated discs that are going to provide cell-to-cell contacts. And so our intercalated discs are they're in the same place as the Z discs are on the skeletal muscle cells, but these are, no, don't push the buttons, please don't. These are special little discs in between the cardiac muscle cells that have little perforations in them called gap junctions. Don't push that, I'm serious. Called gap junctions within those intercalated discs provide a low resistant pathway for impulse transmission. Zach, you want to say hi to everybody? Hi, everybody. All right, now Zach's gonna be a big boy and don't push any buttons, okay? No, don't. You are great at it. Okay, so here's our cardiac muscle cell. Let me get my little pointer guy going here. If I can reach it. Well, let me reach it today. Okay. So anyways, I'll use this. So here are intercalated discs. You can see how that's going to help the muscle cells to hold together. And then within those intercalated discs, we have these things called gap junctions, and that just facilitates the what are you doing to that cord over there? That facilitates electricity moving through the heart at a quick pace. So these electrical impulses will move through the heart more quickly than if they were moving through skeletal muscle cells. So what happens to get your heart to contract? The cyanoatrial node generates an impulse, or an action potential, if you will. The atria are going to contract simultaneously while the ventricles relax. So we have atrial systole and ventricular diastole. That nerve impulse, or the action potential, goes into the, sorry. Right, the impulse goes to the atrioventricular node and then to the ventricles. So the AV node slows that beat down a little bit so that the ventricles have time to fill. So the atria pump blood into the ventricles fill up, and then the ventricles pump. All right, come on, guys. Our ventricles then contract while the atria relax. So the impulses from the cyanoatrial node travel across the atria into the AV node. It's located in the floor of the right atrium, and it depolarizes that tissue. The impulse is slowed at the AV node. Then it passes through this thing called the Atrioventricular Bundle, which you'll see on the next slide here. That extends into that septum between the two ventricles and then wraps up around the ventricles. All right, hang on one second. I'm going to get my pointer going here. Don't put that back in the plug, okay? Just give it to mommy when you're done playing with it. Okay, so here are our chambers of the heart: the right chamber, the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the left ventricle. Here's our cyanoatrial node right up here in the top. And then we have, when the cyanoatrial node sends its action potential out, it's going to cascade through all these cells in the atria, all of them. That's where we see this green wave going. So where you see the green wave, know that that's where that depolarization wave is occurring. So all the cells in the atria are going to conduct this impulse for us, this action potential for us, but they cannot get through to the ventricles. The only place the current can pass through is the atrioventricular node, or the AV node. Then it's going to have to, and that's going to slow it down a little bit. It will then follow down these nerve fibers through the interventricular septum to the Purkinje fiber. Sorry, I said nerve fibers. I did not mean nerve fibers, but specialized fibers that are going to carry down here into the heart muscle. So we go from the AV node, the atrioventricular node, down to the atrioventricular bundle, down and out to the Purkinje fibers. So first we'll contract the atria, then the ventricles will contract from the bottom, pushing blood up. So this bottom part of the atria contracts first, and then this bottom part of the ventricles contracts first, and then the muscle above it contracts. So it's like squeezing from the bottom to get all the blood out of those ventricles. So depolarization is the propagation of electrical charge across the membranes of the cardiac muscle cells. Depolarization starts in the cyanoatrial node and continues through the heart tissue. And we'll just see some pictures of that flowing along. So here's our step 2. Let's jump back here. So we already said this muscle impulse generated, spread through the atria. Here's our internodal pathway, basically the pathway through the atria. We see the atrioventricular node cells delay that muscle impulse as it passes through the AV bundle. Once it's within that septum, the AV bundle divides into the left and the right sides, and then these pass along the impulse cell these pass the impulse to conduction cells called Purkinje fibers that begin at the apex of the heart. And these Purkinje fibers spread the impulse superiorly from the apex to all the ventricular myocardium. Now the apex is at the bottom of the heart. It's the pointy part. Why is it named that? I don't know, but basically we're going to start the heart contracting at the bottom. It's going to kind of squeeze upward so it can get all the blood out, and so it can get as much blood out as possible in an efficient way. So we can see, here we go, we keep on with the sequence of events. The current, that depolarization current, is passing down through the AV bundle. Now it's in the intraventricular septum, and then it is going to divide out to the left and right sides. So we're going to squeeze from the bottom up. The muscle impulse is delivered to the Purkinje fibers in each ventricle and distributed throughout the ventricular myocardium so it can pump efficiently. And when we take a look at, hang on one sec, guys, I want to see what's next. Okay, oh, we're going to make it. So we take a look at something called the ECG, or electrocardiogram. This is what it looks like. Here's a single waveform of an electrocardiogram. And the forms, the waves, the individual waves that we see on an ECG or electrocardiogram tell us a little bit about what's happening in the heart. So the P wave right here tells us that everything is well and working when we have the cyanoatrial node depolarizing. If the P wave is funky, it means something has been damaged up here in the heart and we cannot conduct that current effectively. We then keep on traveling down. We have what's called the PR segment is what it's usually called. You guys don't need to know that though. But it's this little segment right here that just tells me what's going on with the AV node. Then we get to the QRS complex right here. And the QRS complex tells me how well are we doing with that current that's traveling down the septum. Depolarization means that muscle's about to contract. So now we have all the current has gone through the left ventricle contracts right here, and then we're going to reset the cells and swing back around to the SA node. So what's the take home from this? Kind of a quick lecture about the conduction system of the heart. Do I expect us to have this memorized? No, I do not. When you guys get to Dr. Aquafiva's class, she will talk about this some more. But what I really want us to take home and what your little assignment's going to ask you about is what the cyanoatrial node does is it paces the heart, it sets the heart rate. Okay. The AV node slows the heart rate down to a reasonable level. Okay. And then it also gives your heart time, it gives the ventricles time to fill. So atrial pump and the ventricles pump. Then we rest. Then the atria pump and the ventricles pump, and then we rest. So that's how the conduction system of the heart works. So jump on over to Canvas, get that little assignment done. You guys have done a great job so far this week of submitting all your things. By Sunday, all your work is, due Sunday night at midnight. So I'm recording this obviously before it goes up. Just want to say I appreciate everybody jumping on there and getting the work done. Good work, guys. Keep it up. And hop on over to Canvas, get this little assignment done, and swing around, and we'll start talking about the blood vessels. Zach, stop jumping on bed. No way. This is what we're dealing with here, guys. Zach, say bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.